Hi, and welcome to the Green with Tiffany podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Page, and in this show, we'll explore topics of sustainable living, all aspects of health and wellness of people and planet, and how we're all interconnected. Join us on this journey to live better and more sustainably by improving our health, our families, and the world with the choices that we make. Hi, and welcome to the Green with Tiffany Choose to Care podcast. I am very excited to have on Paula Childers. This is so great. So we just reconnected recently, and she is the owner of Alimtox Wellness. She's been in the natural healthcare industry since 1996, has been with Alimtox for like the last 17 years. Hi, Paula.
Hi, Tiffany. How you doing? It's so great to have reconnected.
I'm so glad you're here. So we're going to talk to her about Alimtox and how she got started and the importance of detoxifying your body and the many channels that you can do that from and the ways that you do it, and something that I was able to try and work with as well that I highly recommend. So take it away, Paula. How are you?
Oh, I'm excited to be here and share some of my knowledge. I always tell everybody that it's so much easier in life to be proactive about your health than it is to be reactive about your health. And to do that, you just have to do a little bit of self-care, and most of us don't take the time to do that. So I'm always excited to share my tips.
Oh, good. Well, it's so true. We don't take care of ourselves enough. So I'm Tiffany Page. I'm your host, and I met Paula a while ago at this great festival called the Green Festival that no longer exists. And I was walking by and I went to sit down, and they were telling me about this ion cleanse that works through detoxifying, but through your feet on this one. It's a foot detox bath. And I did it, and it was so cool. And I ended up doing a video about it, and it got a lot of attention, This was not a long time ago, but it was a little ways back. So now we reconnected. I happened to be walking by and saw her, years later now at this other event. And so here we are. And there's no such thing as coincidence, I believe. So this was meant to be. So I'm so happy to have you on. And so I just wanted to start with what got you started in natural healthcare, because 1996, things are now becoming more mainstream. And even though all these ways of holistic health care have been around for a long time, what got you into it at a time where it wasn't as known or as talked about?
Well, it's actually kind of crazy. I people ask me this a lot, and I'm like, well, I started when I was about 10 years old. My stepmom was kind of a new age woo woman, and she was into natural health way before anybody else was. And so she started feeding me vitamins and herbs when I was about 10. And then when I was 19, my dad was the first time I actually had to deal with a health crisis. He was diagnosed with cancer. And my stepmom said we were going to go after this naturally. And I thought, oh my gosh, are you crazy? What do you mean we're not going to do what the doctor said? And fortunately, the wife went on that one and not the daughter. And we had the cancer cut out of my dad. And in 1996, there wasn't all these juicing options that we have out there today. Nobody actually talked about it except for Jack LaLanne. And for those of you that are my age, will know who that is. But we did a juicing series on him. And then nobody back then took white sugar and realized that that's what fed cancer. So we took away his white sugar for a year. And at the end of that year, my dad was cancer free and stayed that way for 26 years. So that's what really gave me the aha of the power of the body getting itself back to balance if you give it the right tools.
How incredible to have that proof at such a young age. And how did she know about this area of juicing and going a natural?
My stepmom, she's an old school farmer daughter. She was from Arkansas. She was the oldest of 11 children. So they did all those natural remedies and the back to basics of keeping yourself healthy and whole. So And she was also a very motivated person, and I used to always go after things from a positive perspective. Like, well, and then what really jumped me into the ion cell cleanse industry was a few years after my dad healed. My stepmom was diagnosed with ALS. They told her, "You have 6 months to live. There's nothing we can do for you. Get your affairs in order. You're going to die." And she's like, "Okay, well, I'm going to get my affairs in order," but like, she's used to taking care of business. She said, "I'm going to look for alternatives." And the very first machine that I ever worked with was a machine called the Q. That was an ion cell cleanse machine, like the Alimtox ion cell cleanse machine. But the difference was, in 1990, those were $6,500 to purchase, and you had to manually dial in the frequencies. They were not consumer friendly, and they were a lot of work to use. But we used that on her, and she beat the disease not for 6 months, but for 6 years. So that was like, oh, I got 5 more years with one of the most influential women in my life. And that was because we chose to look for an alternative to help keep her body in balance and in alignment.
That's incredible.
And we found one.
I love it. I love this woman, and I love the woo woo. I'm all about the woo woo, you know.
Yeah, and when I say woo woo, I say that because I so truly believe in holistic and natural health. I was blessed for a short period of time to work with a gentleman that had an office in Costa Mesa. His name was Dr. Julian Whitaker, and he was a pioneer in combining allopathic and homeopathic modalities. He had hyperbaric chambers and chelation and all sorts of different treatments like that back in 2001 when I worked for him. This is, again, way ahead of everybody else in the industry. So allopathic and homeopathic combined together can help somebody heal and balance so much faster.
Very powerful.
Makes so much more sense.
Yes, very powerful. I love that you've been introduced to it so early. But now, I mean, I know, woo-woo gets a bad rap because I use it for lack of a better term when people are starting at ground, at the ground zero, like they don't really know anything. And so to them, it is woo-woo. And then I try to clarify, what it really is and that it's not.
Yes.
But between us.
Oh, it's the woo-woo.
The woo-woo that works. I love it. So now that got you involved, and then you went on to work in a different realm before you got to Alimtox. You were with the Chicken Soup for the Soul.
After my stepmom passed away, my stepmom was very, very, very good friends with Mark Victor Hansen, the co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul book series, along with Jack Canfield. And after she had passed away, I had no idea that they had this conversation, but I ran into him at a family Christmas party, and he said, "So are you ready?" I said, "Ready for what, Mark?" And because when you're working with a motivational speaker, as you well know, they are a little bit unique in what they have planned for you. And so I walked into the office, and he said, "Well," he goes, "you're going to run V Vision International for me, my natural health company." And I am so excited because it's been my passion ever since. And it was actually my passion before that. I just didn't know I was going to get to make a living doing it. But I still utilize a lot of the products for my clients as a health coach from that era. One of the product lines I use is a parasite cleanse from the same company that I was working for back in 1996 when I worked with Mark.
Great. Well, if it works, why fix it?
Yeah.
So
don't need to reinvent the wheel if it's not squeaking.
Exactly. So now you have Alimtox Wellness, which under that umbrella has different products that you have. But I met you through the Ion Cell Cleanse. Let's start with what this is and why we do it through the foot, even though it detoxifies the entire body. And let's start there. So you have a foot bath. Well, I call it a foot bath, but for lack of a better
everybody
word.
calls it a foot bath, and the reason for that is because if you're walking by and you look in the water, it's like they go, "Oh, what was that?" And I'm like, "Well, it started clear, and yes, it looks just yucky, disgusting." But basically, what we're doing is we're doing two detoxes at the same time. What comes out in the water tells me a little bit about you, and it identifies what might be going on with your body. Like when we did yours, I pretty much hit some of the things that you already knew about your health. but it's only releasing what you've taken in, processed, and ready to dump. It's not sucking anything out of you, which is what a lot of when that they were trying to say in that news article, or people try to say, yeah, we're sucking things out of you. That's scientifically impossible. But what we can do is have the body to process things out through urination, elimination, and sweat by cleaning you out at a cellular level. And so that's what we're doing. So basically, it's two detoxes at the same time. What comes out in the water tells me a little bit about you. What goes on internally makes you feel better. And then when you're done, most people will find that they have more energy or more focus. They'll sleep better at night. And some people end up with with happy feet because they kicked up their circulation just in the winter event.
So great. So what happens is this is very much a visual sort of conversation when you're talking about the foot detox. And since we don't have that at the moment, although maybe I will, edit some in because we have a correlating video to go with it. So if you run, say I have my feet in the bath with the cell cleanse, with the Alimtox cell cleanse, and then you have one running empty next to it, you'll see the difference. You call it what, like a dummy one?
I call it a ghost.
A ghost.
Yeah,
okay,
I call it running a ghost. And
running a ghost.
And that's a big thing because there are some machines. There's lots of different machines out there. You can find some very good pieces of equipment and some absolutely pieces of junk. And those junkier ones, that what they'll do is they'll use an array. That's the unit that goes in the water. And they use a copper array. And if you run one with a copper array in the water, it doesn't matter if there's a human being in or not, the water is going to turn black. If you use one like I use, which is a stainless steel array, it'll turn about a pea yellow. And the reason for that is you have to have minerals in the water to get the water to be conductive. And those minerals are going to change a little bit of a color. And when we did it here with you, it turns about a pea yellow. And that's because there's a little bit of chlorine in the water out here in Vista, California.
And you also have to add a little bit of salt to the water as well.
Well, it's just like, and the reason why we add salt is to make, again, the water thicker and more conductive. Just like when you want your spaghetti water to boil, you throw a little salt in it to make it more conductive. That's the same thing here, is we're just making the water more conductive. So we can create more ions in the water.
Yeah. So
this is an ion cell cleanse. It's not a foot, like I said, everybody gets excited about what's in the water and coming out in their feet, but we're really cleaning you out at a cellular level. So it's an ion cell cleanse.
An ion cell cleanse. Right. So that's why I'm telling you this, so you can know that when you see the ghost running, I'm holding up my water glass, which has some herbal drops in it. I don't know if that'll show, but it's just a light yellow. But then what comes out of the body, or what the color changes while a human, or I don't know, can you do pets? A human.
I have done dogs.
If you do a human or pets, there is no doubt about it, the difference of what you see. I mean, so what I'm saying this for is because what I wanted to bring up is there was an Inside Edition investigative, show that showed or investigated the ion cell cleanse. And I don't know which one they did. I don't know whose company they did, but they talked about how it was rust. That it was rust from, the electric part of it, the
array.
And I just thought, there's no way. I mean, maybe if you wanted to show the ghost one and the light yellow, okay, maybe you could think of that as rust. If for the average person looking, not knowing what that is, they could see that and go, oh yeah, that's rust. But I'm telling you, when you see this bath, I don't know. I don't care who you are. There is no way what you see that water turn to, that's rust. It's just, to me, it is not possible. Not possible. So I just wanted to clarify that. And they talk about it being a scam. And I just wanted to bring that up because I want to make sure that that's clarified of what it is, and just be very transparent of what people are seeing and the misinformation about it, really.
Well, again, and I always tell everybody, I go, just because it's a flat screen TV, it doesn't mean it's a 4K smart TV, right? And that's the same thing with your units. There are some units that are out there that I wouldn't put my dog's feet in, but there are some excellent units that are out there and are designed to help you. Now, the very, very, very first unit that was ever created was in Japan in 1935, and it was designed to get rid of heavy metals and radiation out of the body. So the whole purpose of an ion cell cleanse was to clean the body out at a cellular level. And as far as the confusion, I always tell everybody is, I think if you think back 30 years ago, chiropractors were considered quacks and bone breakers, and then they're like, go in and get back surgery, and the back surgery most of the time didn't help. And then chiropractors started becoming more and more popular, and they're like, oh, I'm going to send you to a chiropractor and rehab as opposed to fusing your back together. It makes more sense. You fast forward about 15 years, and then acupuncture is now starting to become more mainstream, and people are like, I'm going to try acupuncture before I do this. So a lot of it is people allowing to be educated from different areas to learn about what they can do to keep themselves into balance and in health.
So true. And you must have seen such great change, because it really has sped up in the last, I'd say
absolutely.
like 5 to 10. Well, maybe we lost a few years.
No, we're going
like 10
back
years.
25 years.
So, because I remember when somebody had recommended acupuncture for my dog, and I wasn't against it. I just had never done it myself. And I thought, how am I going to find an acupuncturist that does dogs? And, and that was a handful of years ago. Cut to the fact, starting in probably 2016, maybe, I then started acupuncture for my dog. And it was still considered a little odd when I talk about it with people. But now I actually stop people at a park, and if I see a dog limping or so, I said, have you ever tried acupuncture? And they're like, oh yeah, we're doing it now or something, and I thought, so like, wow, it's really come a long way. And I'm so excited about that. And that's why I feel like this conversation, is going to be much more accepted and really heard, because the information is out there. There are ways to help your body detox, heal. And I just want to get that information out there to people.
Well, it's so, and then there's always the people that they're like, they get so excited. They're like, okay, I'm going to go gung ho. I'm going to do all this. And then they start to, I always tell everybody, remember, you have to cleanse, rebuild, and balance. And then when you cleanse, you don't want to do it so fast. I don't know if you remember, I think probably it's about 12 years ago, when the hot cleanse out on the market, everybody was saying, let's do the master cleanse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like, besides throw the toilet paper roll in the freezer because you're going to need it for the backside. Most people weren't able to do it because it was just too much too fast. So, I always tell everybody, clean out at a cellular level and do it at a pace that your body is going to release naturally and not too fast. I always say, take the symptom like your doctor would ask you, go to that system, and then find a way to support it with some kind of a tool. And that could be acupuncture, reflexology, air candling, cupping, teas, herbs, an ion cell cleanse machine. I mean, there are so many wonderful tools that are out there on the market. It's just, you find out which one will help with that particular illness or modality that you have, and support you.
Yes, it's all about supporting. I think we forget that. I think more people are open to that now, that it's a whole system versus just treating that one issue. But there are so many things that you can do. So who should be doing an ion cell cleanse?
Everybody. Well, in all honesty, here's the thing, is that, think of it this way. You want to clean your body out, just like you run your vacuum, scrub your toilet, do your laundry. You clean once a week. Why wouldn't you clean the one thing you can't replace? So by cleaning yourself at a cellular level, it means all of your eliminative channels, like your liver, your lungs, your gallbladder, your colon, your thyroid, kidneys, all of those systems are going to function at a higher level. So that means that your energy is going to go up, your physical abilities are going to improve, because you feel much better because your body's functioning at a higher rate. So what we want to make sure is that the reason why you want to clean your system out is if your body is exposed to some kind of a virus or some kind of a disease that's going around, if your immune system is working at top levels, because all of those eliminative channels are there, you will be able to fight whatever is coming your way, as opposed to somebody that it has disease or illness in their body. It's a much easier fight if you're already starting at a higher, healthier level.
Absolutely. And optimum shape. And so
Yep.
we use the feet. I mean, if you look at a reflexology chart and how all the parts of the feet are connected to organs in different parts of the body, that makes perfect sense as it being one of the elimination channels. But could you use another part of your body, or is really the feet the best way to do it?
Realistically, your meridian lines run through your hands and your feet, so you can put your hands in, but you're leaving your hands in for a full hour, so it's a lot easier to do your feet. Like in your feet, different spots in your hands will address all of those eliminative channels, like kidneys, liver, those things, just like your feet do. But it's a lot more comfortable to stick your feet in a bucket of water than put your hands in.
That's
I have
true.
had a few of my practitioner doctors, for some of their clients, have actually had them do a whole tub, just throw the array in the tub. But I'm like, well, it's a job to clean the tub afterwards, so it's a lot easier just to stick your feet in the bucket of water.
Yeah, and then you could just sit and relax, but you could read, you could just sit there and watch TV or work on your computer. I mean, it's really just a
Yeah, and
easy way to do it.
and then people ask me that this is what's so great about it is that it's not invasive. Once you have it, you make a plan to do it once a week, or twice a week, depending on if you have a health issue. And I'm going to call my husband out a little bit, because I said, okay, you got to pick a TV show that you're going to watch once a week. I go, that's when you're going to do your detox, because to try to make a habit, you got to come up with a plan, right? And so when he first started doing it, he was doing it during Desperate Housewives, and then when Desperate Housewives on Scandal came up, and then How to Get Away with Murder, and I'm like, either you're a Shonda Rhimes fan or you're trying to tell me something. but no, it's like I said, you just pick a night a week. Like on Sunday nights, I'm going to do this or whatever, and you just sit down, relax. And it's when you do it, you're so relaxed when you're done, that it's a pleasant process. It doesn't take a lot of work. You don't even realize that you're doing it. So like you said, you can read, watch TV, work on your computer, whatever you want to do for an hour's worth of relaxation of the week.
Yeah, I'm sure consistency is probably key to that as well for that. And who should not do an ion cell cleanse? Is there anybody?
Well, there's a few people. I mean, let's be honest. It's when you're pregnant, you don't get to do anything fun. So I don't do pregnant people. People that have a pacemaker, defibrillator. I just like going through the scanner at the airport. I mean, it really wouldn't do anything to you, but we just choose not to do anybody like that. Same thing with somebody that's had a heart transplant or a liver transplant that can reject. I choose not to do those people. Now, if you got a fake knee like I do, or any implants, you're no problems whatsoever. But the one person that can't do it is an epileptic. Because epileptics, we don't want to create any reason why we're sending an electrical charge, and sometimes that will create an epileptic seizure. Just like those kids that were when PlayStation 2 came out, I don't know, I think it was about 16, 17 years ago. And those kids were playing all day long, and they were holding on to the controller, and they were playing for 5 hours, and they started having seizures. It was because of that electrical charge going through the body. So we just don't do epileptics.
Wow, I didn't know that. I remember playing video games. I know this is not going to be popular because people love their video games, but I don't know what I was playing, but it was, you hold the controller and you can shoot, right? And it would have a reverberation, like a feedback from it.
Yeah.
It freaked me out so badly that you really get immersed in it. I just don't know if that's very good for the body of what you're doing. You're creating this simulation. It's really, and I can't imagine what they're like now, but I don't play them.
I actually suck at them. The only thing I was relatively good at was the very first one, Nintendo, the very first Nintendo and Duck Hunt.
Frogger.
Yeah. know, and even back in the day when I was, working in bars when I was 21, Miss Pac-Man was about as good as I ever got.
I love Miss Pac-Man. She's still around. That's so great. So, obviously, there's a lot of health benefits that you can reap from doing a cell cleanse. But one of the main things is it can help with inflammation, right? Which is really like the root cause of so many other diseases in the body.
Yeah, absolutely. Most of us, most diseases come from one of three things: either plaque, cholesterol, or acidity. Plaque, you think of Alzheimer's, plaque and cholesterol, heart attack, and stroke. But the acidity, if the body is really acidic, that's the one that's causing the majority of the issues that we're finding today, like chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, arthritis, cancer, diabetes, gout, neuropathy, anything that's autoimmune. Anything that's attacking the body is usually because the body's so acidic that it does that. Now, there are people that are acidic that's not being effective. Now, like for those people that are like marathon runners or runners in general, or they have a really physical job, they're going to release the lactic acid. Now, that's not what I'm worried about. It's the other acidities. There's 7 different acidities out there that the body releases. The lactic acid we don't worry about because that comes from our muscles being worked. But the other ones are the ones that are creating all of the disease that's causing us like to have joint problems, or like I said, the autoimmune diseases that have shown up, and they keep coming. That's the scary part, is that they keep coming up with new ways to call something else that's an autoimmune disease because it's got a little variation from the other one, and it's basically our bodies are too acidic and do not know how to handle it.
It's shocking how many there are now. You can't keep track of all of them. It's crazy.
Oh no, no, not at all.
So I know we were saying how you couldn't work or you can watch TV, but you might not even want to, because it is fascinating to see the color change and what goes on in this water, and really each color that you'll see. I mean, have you ever seen? There's nobody that you've ever done that's been really like clear, right? I mean, I was told I was a cleanie. I'm like, if that's clean, I don't know. That didn't look clean. I mean, not this last time, but before.
Well, here's the reason why is the body's a constant sewer system, always garbage in, garbage out. You cannot escape toxins. I mean, you get the toxins that we're exposed to are from the water we drink, the food we eat, from walking outside. It's in everything. I mean, our shampoo, things that we don't even think about that we're putting toxins in our body, like a hot thing that's not from my generation, but from my kids' generations, are all getting tattoos. Nobody is saying that, hey, by the way, you're putting heavy metals directly in your body. Nobody thinks about it. It's just not something that they talk about. But there are so many different ways that we're putting toxic things into our bodies besides just eating, breathing, and drinking water. But the different colors usually do correlate with what might be going on with your system, especially, say, if you're missing a part. Like if you're missing your gallbladder, it's going to show up in there, and people go, well, I don't have a gallbladder. How's that showing up? I'm like, because that's showing up that it's a non-functioning system. So
I pulled up some of the colors. The color for gallbladder is what? Like,
well, it kind of looks like
green,
split
like
pea
a darker
soup.
green. Yeah. So you'll see it turn a brown, and then there'll be just like other little things going on. You might see a little bit of the green, like she mentioned, or like I don't know. I probably shouldn't even describe these because everybody's going to be different, but like there might be a foam, or there might be like a white mucusy kind of thing. So it really varies. Obviously, everybody's body and systems are very different. Do you enjoy looking? I mean, is it fun, like a little puzzle of like what you see in the water? Or are you like, oh my gosh, look at this?
Well, it was funny when I had my son-in-law came to work for me, and he walked around, and the first time he did a show with me, and I think we did about 45 people that day or something, and he goes, oh my goodness, he goes, you're the water whisperer, and I, what do you mean? And he's like, he goes, as you're marking these charts, he goes, almost everybody that you were talking to, they were like, how did you know that? And I'm like, people lie, water doesn't. And I don't think I answered your other question when you asked me about the have I ever seen anybody completely clean?
Oh, yeah.
One of my best comparisons to a cleaning, as you would say, is there's a show up in San Francisco, and I started doing it about back in 2007 or 8, somewhere around there. And there was this lady that came into my booth, and she was a true vegan, not the ones that go, oh, I can eat Oreo cookies because they're vegan. She's a
Right.
true vegan, ate and had eaten that way for like 30 years. She was a marathon runner, and she was 72 years old. And she sat down in my booth, and her water, we saw a lot of lactic acid, which I was not surprised of because she's a marathon runner. We also saw a lot of mucus because, again, she's a marathon runner and she lives in San Francisco, where the air quality is the air quality that it is. And then we also saw some lung debris in there. And then ironically, up until COVID, she would come back every year to our booth and do a detox. And she still was clean because she lived that clean lifestyle, but you still did see something come out of her. And she was pretty much stayed consistent for at least 15 years.
Amazing. How
Haven't seen her. I
fantastic.
haven't seen her back. I actually haven't been back to that show since COVID. So hopefully I'll get back there. It's one of those ones that I'm hoping to rejoin soon.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. Well, I mean, I just feel like it'd kind of be fun to see the different
Oh,
detoxing that happens and being able to really help pinpoint it for people as well, so they can sort of have a guide of what they should be working on.
you know what was really weird is I did a show a couple of weeks ago in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I had identical twin sisters sit down at my booth. And they started out the same. And as it went, all of a sudden, one started going to one color and one started going to another color. And they were like, wait a minute, we're identical twins. And well, one of them had actually lost her gallbladder and the other one hadn't. And the other one had been in an accident. And so she got very, very orange because she had a lot of inflammation in her body. And the other one that had lost her gallbladder got very green. And I'm like, and I said, I go, orange usually means there might be an injury or something autoimmune. She just goes, oh, well, I was in an accident. That makes sense. And then I said, the green usually means that either you're missing your gallbladder or
A
it
little
just
backed
needs
up.
a good old fashioned cleaning. And so she's like, oh, I'm missing it. So it was kind of fun to actually have identical twins that really had the same similar lifestyle and see the
Still be
difference in their
different.
water.
Yeah.
They were shocked.
They're not identical after all.
They're like, this is the first time we actually look different.
So if you have the machine, are there different settings on it? Is it easy to use? I mean, I'm sure different machines are, have different ways about using them, but I just wanted to talk about the Alimtox in particular.
Well, the Alimtox machine, that was one of the reasons why, like I said, the first machine I used was with my stepmom, the Q, that was really expensive and very difficult to operate. The Alimtox, when I came across it, I'm like, this is so amazing because now everybody can use it. It's like basically you turn it on from the back, you get the power up, you put your feet in a bucket of water, the array, which is this is what that array is. That's the thing that goes in the water. You put that in the water. You put a wristband on. Now we do have some of the units out there have wristbands, or they don't have wristbands. But most of those that are out there, they just do a ground. Ours is actually a charge. So for the women, it goes on the right hand side, and the men, it goes on the left hand side. So because men and women electrically start different, so we're going to get a complete circuit that way. So we put that wristband on, feet in the water, turn the power on, hit the start button. It's already starting to rock and roll for you.
Okay,
And then,
so you don't have to adjust any levels, or you do?
No, everything's all preset for you. The only thing you might have to add is just a little bit of salt, and that really depends on where you live. Like here, for those of us who live in Southern California, our water's pretty nasty, and it already starts at a high level. We start, at least down here in Vista where I am, I'm starting around an 18, 19. But I just did a show last week. Like I said, I was in Cincinnati, and their water was starting around a 9. So. And then this last weekend, I was in Dallas, Texas, and it was starting around a 12. So It just depends on what's in the water system of how much salt you have to add. But it's just a little pinch. And that's all. You sit back, relax. It runs for 30 minutes. You don't have to touch anything, do anything. Just sit back and relax.
That's so interesting about the water. Now, would you use spring water? Would you use a different type of water to start?
Well, you can. And this is where that level of how hard you want to work. The water is basically used as a conductor to create the ions in there for you. It's just used as the conductor. So, but you want it nice and warm. Nobody wants to stick their feet in ice cold water. So if you were to use distilled water, the amount of salt you have to add is going to create more corrosion in your array. So it will actually burn out a little faster. If you're using spring water, you have to go and find a way to heat it up, which makes things a little bit more difficult. So most people would rather just go and turn on the hot tap in their sink, fill their bucket up that way, and use it, with a little bit of junk that's in the water. It's not going to affect anything. And as far as the detox goes, your water might get a little bit nastier, a little faster for the first couple minutes, but after that, it doesn't make any difference.
Okay. And that array that you speak of, the kind of the plate, or the one that you were saying yours is stainless steel that goes in, does that have any upkeep to it? How does that work?
Well, they're the only consumable part of the machine. They're good for approximately 30 treatments per array. It's because when you put salt, water, and like I said, this is metal. When you put all three of those together, it starts to corrode. So the more often you use them, the more usage you'll get out of them. And so I say, when people go, "Oh, I'm just going to save this," I'm like, "No, don't save it. The more often you use them, the more usage you'll get out of them." So,
I mean, the whole point is to use the machine, right? You're saying to save the machine, not use it as much?
Yeah. I mean, I've had people say, "Oh, well, I'm only doing it once a month." And I'm like, "No." When people go, "Do you use your machine?" I'm like, "Absolutely." I usually do a detox before I go out to an event. And then I usually do it when I come home from an event, because it's kind of a physical job to do. But when I'm not working, I do at least once a week, I do a detox myself, because I'm 62. I want to be able to go out and enjoy and do things. I've recently taken up pickleball.
That is just sweeping the nation.
In college, in high school, but this is a little bit more my speed now. But I do. I was like, I'm still out there going on the summers, going water skiing behind the boat and doing all those things, where a lot of my friends are physically, unable to do that. And I truly believe it's because my body system's younger, because all of my systems are functioning higher at a higher level. So I can do all those fun things that we all want to do.
For sure. There's people I talk to now that I think they're in their late 30s, maybe early 40s. And they're just like, "Oh, I'm so old." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Don't grab those words and throw those away right now. You are as young as you feel." So maybe they're feeling that, but that comes from something else. The chronological age obviously has nothing to do with that. And they're putting it out there, right? They're just saying they're old. So then they're old. It's crazy for someone in their 30s to say that. So wild.
Well, no. And a lot of it is, again, self-care and self-maintenance. And I mean, I grew up, I was a ballet dancer and a gymnast, and God never intended me to land on my head, my back, and my knees the way I did. So, and I danced professionally, when I was in my early 20s. So, I mean, before I started doing this on a regular basis, I'll be real honest, I kind of had the snack crackle pops when I got out of bed. That doesn't happen anymore, because I've reduced all that acidity in my system, and I have the ability to move around. And I mean, I load and unload my truck and set it up. And at this last show that I just did, we had 12 chairs going, and we're rocking about 50 to 60 people over a day during the weekend. So that takes a little bit of effort.
That's pretty impressive.
Spend it over grabbing those bags and tossing them out.
Oh, I wonder if it'll help. I've always had you said snap, crackle, pop. It reminded me of my knees.
Yes.
I mean, I've always had crackly knees. Like when I walk downstairs, I
Mhm.
mean, it's embarrassing sometimes. It's like, they're like, I'm like, I need the WD-40 for them. Where's that?
I and it is. It's funny. It's like when I've had people that got sat down in my booth and they were like, "Oh God, my neck hurts so bad," and they're like, "I can't move my head," and then like, "Oh, hey, I'm over my shoulder." I'm like, "Yeah, it's because your body's just so acidic. We're just gonna get it. We're releasing it up." I go, "Wait till you get up from here. You might walk out here with happy feet and skipping down the hall when you're all done."
That's so exciting. So if somebody has I mean, obviously, I don't, one can do a little bit, but if you, depending on whatever your issue is, you should be
Yeah.
consistent with it. But what can someone expect after doing one? And what should they do? Should they drink a lot of water afterward, or should they, not eat certain foods, or, what is the protocol?
Well, first of all, when everybody's different because everybody has a different health issue where they're
Mhm.
starting. So if you're talking about an average person that has a little bit of joint stuff going on, they will find that when they're done, usually that they're more focused and energized. They will find that that night that they get one of the best night's sleeps they've had in a really long time. If they have any inflammation, it usually reduces their if I've got somebody that has something like gout or neuropathy, they're like, "Oh, I've got happy feet, the circulation's now going through," or people go, "Gosh, I just go, my fingers have warmed up." So they kind of that's the some of the things that people will actually see immediately. And depending on what kind of health issue you have, it takes a little bit of time to get there, because remember, you didn't get into a health problem overnight. It was a series of unfortunate events that get you to where you're really, really, really sick. And people don't necessarily understand. I go, "How did I get sick? How did I get this sick?" And they don't realize that that's why this is such an important tool. Cell cleanse is basically what we're doing is, your cells, the way they reproduce is called mitosis. They split, make an identical copy of the original cell. So if your original cell is healthy and whole, that's great. You're going to stay on that path of health and wellness. But if that original cell is diseased or fatigued, the disease is going to increase because it's going to keep repeating itself and making more disease in the body. And the same thing with the fatigue. So by taking the cellular debris off, which is what we do with that wristband, it releases the cellular debris, and cellular debris is herbicides, pesticides, petroleum products, hormones, heavy metals that are in the food, water, and air that we breathe. We release it with that wristband, and that array creates those ions that we were talking about. They go up through those meridian lines, attract that cellular debris. So then over the next 2 days, through urination, elimination, and sweat, so yeah, you're going to process it out. Now, some of the things you can do to make it be more effective is, if you're looking for a change to make yourself healthier, I always tell everybody, drink water, and drink alkaline water, drink water with minerals in it. It's just like calcium. Dasani and Aquafina,
Dead water.
it's dead. They take all the chemicals out. They take all the metals out. They take all the minerals out. They were making water before they actually started bottling it. That's why Coca-Cola and Pepsi taste the same no matter where you buy it in the country. So you want to make sure that you drink water, the water that has minerals in it. So alkaline water does that for you. The other thing is that if you have a sauna at home after you do a detox, that's a great tool to use. Or if you don't have one of those, hop in a hot bath with some Epsom salt so you sweat it out. Because remember, you're going to release it through urination, elimination, and sweat over the next couple of days. And to start, if you have one of those, I call it the jiggle wiggles, but one of those vibrational plates, or even the oxy bars, to get your circulation going a little bit, or do some cardio before you do a detox, that's always a good tool too. It's because that way your circulation's already kicked up and going. And people go, "Well, how long do I have to do this?" And I'm like, "Well, I recommend you do a full hour." And that's because it takes approximately 22 minutes for your blood to go from here all the way back around to that same location. And so you get 3 cycles of the blood if you do the full hour. And if for those people that have slower circulations, if we do a vibrational plate or the oxy bar, there's a couple other different companies out there that have something that'll get your circulation going. I'm always happy to make suggestions. But on a typical person, it's about 22 minutes.
Okay. And then you have something that was new that I noticed when I was with you is that the infrared blanket. Is that right? Is that something you would use in conjunction with the foot bath, with the foot cleanse, with the ion cleanse? I got to get the right terminology.
People, even when I'm at booths, I'm like, would you like to do a foot bath? So, because that's what people look at and they associate it with.
Yeah.
One of the things that for me personally, I'm claustrophobic. I'm just going to go there. I don't like saunas.
So no hyperbaric chamber for you.
My face. No. When I was working for Dr. Whitaker, I got in an accident. They put me in that hyperbaric chamber and they almost had to sedate me. And even when I'm driving, I'm that person that don't put hot air on my face. I don't care. It could be, driving in Minnesota, we can put it on my feet, but don't put it on my face. I don't like that. So I started looking for alternatives. And there are a couple different companies out there. There's a gentleman that has a tool that it kind of is in a cube and your head sticks out, but you have to sit in a metal chair and you're sitting up and the infrared's coming at you from different perspectives. And it's a great tool. It works, but it's not very comfortable. Or you can go into one of those really nice infrared saunas and you can lay down in those on the wood. But then again, for me, it's claustrophobic. So I wanted to look for something that worked for me. And so I found these infrared sauna blankets. And what's so great about this is like my Detox. You throw it on your bed, you heat it up, you climb on into it. For an hour, you just, again, either read a book or watch an hour of TV, and there's clay in there with the infrared. So you don't get quite as hot as you do in a traditional sauna, but it's because the clay, it spreads all evenly through. So you're going to increase your circulation. You're going to lose a little bit of weight, just like you do with any other infrared tool out there. You're going to reduce the inflammation in your body. So that's an amazing, wonderful tool.
So that would be good to use in like together. I mean, you would do one and then you could do the other.
Yeah. And I always tell everybody, detox first, then sweat it out afterwards. Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. I love the infrared sauna. I'm not too claustrophobic in that. I used to be a magician's assistant. So random, right? And I was in the box where they put this wasn't a sawing of the box. It was like they stuck knives in. And they actually created this box around the size I was. I'm very bendy. And so I was really like contorted in this box and these knives would come through and I'd have to make sure, I'm positioned. I'm giving away the secret.
You're zigging and
I shouldn't give away the magician's secret. But I could never do that now. I have a little bit of claustrophobia. So when I went in the hyperbaric chamber, that one was a little, that one kind of got me. And so the guy who was putting me in, I'm like, okay, if I need to get out, how do I get out? Where's the zipper? What do I do? So funny what happens to us.
And then you have like the people that have to go into MRI machines, right. They're really claustrophobic. And one of the other tools that I have that I've utilized for years, I don't know if you've seen them, the aqua massage beds, and you used to see them in the malls all the time. And they basically, you lie in them. They have a top that folds down that has a mat that folds to your body, and they have 36 jets that travel from your feet to your neck, and you have a control button and you can stop them from wherever you're hurting. And it's like it's in 10 minutes you get a 30-minute massage because they've got 36 jets and people only have 2 thumbs, right? And so it's a great tool. But that was created by the same guy that created the very first MRI machine for people for rehab that couldn't get in and out of a jacuzzi or a spa situation, or didn't feel secure or didn't want to get into a hot sauna. So they created those machines for that. So that's another tool. But when I first started looking at it, some people, when they say, oh, it's closing down, I'm like, your head's out, you can move around. But it's even for some people, with doing that was too claustrophobic. So you just never know. You got to have that escape button. There is a big red panic button on that thing.
Yes. I don't know where that comes from. I don't, I never had it before, and then it just sort of develops.
I don't know. We played
Strange.
hide and seek and hid on all those little crevices when we were kids. I don't know what we did when we became adults.
So if somebody wanted to do an Alimtox ion cell cleanse, where is there some way that they can find you, or do they buy a machine, or or are there places that have your machine, or how does that work?
Well, we can hit all of the above. If you're in California, I'm Southern California. I'm always happy to have you come to my home office. I do travel and do shows all across the country. Like I said, last weekend I was in Dallas. The weekend before that, I was in Ohio. Next weekend, I'll be in Atlanta. So I do have a calendar up on my website. And then also on my website, there are a lot of practitioners across the country that offer the service in their offices. So there's a great opportunity to go in and utilize not only the Alimtox Ion Cell Cleanse machine, but what one of the other tools they have. Like last weekend when I was in Dallas, I was working with Peak Alkalinity's owner, Melissa, and she's from Alabama. And she has this amazing alkaline water system that she shares with people, and then different, like I said, and other different tools that you can share. Like one of the best ones, when people ask me, I go, "Oh, well, what do you do? What, how do you stay so young at 62?" I said, "Well, besides my detox, I utilize the LifeWave patches to keep my stem cells functioning at a higher level." So, each one of these different wellness centers has a tool that you can utilize besides the detox machine. But I'm always happy to work with anybody, whether you're here with me or across the country. I ship them. If somebody's interested in buying a machine, they just call me up. I will ship it right on out, and then we can work with each other over the phone. And I'm happy to work as your health coach. It's always my pleasure and honor to do so.
Oh, so great. And Paula is going to offer $100 off an Alimtox machine with the code Tiffany2 for the 30 days when this podcast goes up. So when it's up for 30 days, there'll be $100 discount. Yeah.
You know what,
Fantastic.
Tiffany?
Thank you. What?
You know what? I'm going to up the game a little bit here.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to take that $100 off, but the array, since I talked about it, the array is the only consumable part. You get 2 with your unit. If you buy it through Tiffany or with Tiffany's code, I will add an additional 2 arrays. So you get a total of 4 and the $100 discount.
Ooh, that's fantastic. Thank you. Oh my gosh, that's a great deal. I love it. Thank you so much for that. Is there something that people should look out for if they're looking for a way? Because now I've talked about this and I've had friends like, "Oh, I want to do this. How can I do this?" If they're not finding your machine, or they're not going to get your machine, but they want to go to like a wellness center to do one, or, make it a plan to do it for a few weeks or months or whatever they need, what should they look out for? Or how can they vet a machine? How would they know?
Well, here's the problem with that. And I always get very overly cautious with this, because when somebody says, "Well, what would you do if you could not sell your machine?" I'm like, "Well, there's only 2 on the market that I actually consider that I would actually use on myself. A Major Difference has got a very great piece of equipment, but unfortunately they are really pricey. And then AquaChi is probably the other one. Most of the other ones, what I did is I went out and I bought every piece of equipment I could find out on the market, and I tested it. And when we did our video that we showed the live blood cell analysis, and these other machines, they just didn't change the cells. But so it's really hard because I never want to badmouth somebody else's product, but I will say what makes my machine unique and better than most of the machines that are out there on the market is even though I plug into the wall, I have a converter inside that changes it from AC electricity to DC electricity. AC electricity is not a vibrational match to the body, but DC is. So that's a big deal. The second thing is that my motherboard, like the unit that I use for my stepmom, we had to manually change the frequencies every 90 seconds. This one is preset to do it for you. So it's idiot proof. You just plug it in, turn it on, and it's going to change different frequencies to address different parts of the body for you while you're relaxing. The next big deal is, again, the back to the array, because those copper arrays, the ones that look like little cylinders, they're just going to turn the water nasty, whether there's a person in it or not. And my wristband is my secret weapon. What it does is it sends that negative charge in. And so most of those units that are out there that don't have that wristband on it, when they do send those ions up through the meridian lines, they only grab what's free floating. What I do with my wristband is it releases that cellular debris off the cell wall. So it's free floating again, but the ions go and attract to it and attach the ion to the cellular debris. So you pee it out, poop it out, and sweat it out over the next couple of days. Incredible. So those are the 4 things that my machine does that some of the other or most of the other ones on the market will not do.
Fantastic. So actually what we didn't talk about is, when people think about a cleanse, they typically feel like, oh my gosh, well, I'm working this week and I'm in the office, or I can't do it, or I'm traveling. And I don't know if it could be different for different people, but I didn't have any issue with needing to run to the bathroom. Like that's not a part of this type of cleanse. Is that right? Is that for most people or everybody or?
What typically people will say to me is that, hey, the next day I had a bigger BM. I mean, or they released a little bit more than they normally do. But it's not like you're going to get the trots and you're going to be running off to the toilet every 5 seconds. No, not at all. Because it's cleaning, it's letting your body release at its own rate over a period, a couple days. And people go, well, can I overdo it? I'm like, well, you really want to give yourself 2 days to process things out. Then you can do it again in another 2 days. And then when you get to the point where you're saying, wow, I feel absolutely amazing all the time, then you do it weekly or bi-weekly, just like you do your house cleaning or your laundry. This depends. But no, you will not have like if you're, like I said, gotta go.
It won't be that.
No, it won't be anything like that at all.
Well, I thank you, Paula, for all your knowledge and wisdom that you've given us. And it's so important to detox. I mean, unfortunately, we are, more polluted than ever before. Our environment, our air, our water, our food. It's unfortunate because these are the beautiful things we've been given. And we as a human society have not taken care of it the way we should. And so there are ways to then take care of us through all this while we try and make things better. And that is with detoxing your body in different ways. And one of the ways is with an Alimtox ion cell cleanse. So I really wanted to help you promote that and get the word out. And thank you so much for the discount. So if you're interested it's alimtox.com. It's ALIMTOX, alimtox.com. And you'll get the $100 off and the 2 arrays. What a great deal. That is fantastic. I thank you so much for that, Paula, for the listeners out there, for the 30 days once you see the date that this goes up. And so I always end my podcast with 3 tips that people can take away, not necessarily something that they need to buy. So something that they can do. And since we're talking about detoxing or the body, what they can do. I know you mentioned hydration. That's an easy one, but that's definitely one that you had mentioned as a good tip. What do you think?
Well, here's the thing is that the people don't think about it. And it's not talked about, but your body's made out of 65% water. Your brain is made out of 75% water. The only thing that has water in it is water. So the more water you drink, the more your body's going to flush out toxins, whether it's something that you do on purpose, like a hair dye or you're like my husband. My husband works in the airline industry. He's around toxic materials all the time. So you definitely need to flush. But but if you're not drinking enough water, that's what happens is that your body has to go shopping, and the place that goes shopping is in your colon and first, and that's why you get constipated. And the second place it goes is in your muscles, making you feel tired and run down. So if you get nothing out of today, the most important thing to do is drink water. And again, alkaline water is your best choice. So that's tip number one for the day.
It's a good one. It's an easy one. We forget. People forget.
Yeah.
I know I have a friend who doesn't drink any water, zero
Yeah.
water. She hates the taste of water. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
How do you do that? I mean, I don't drink enough water, but I don't know how you drink no one.
Well, and here's the thing is that if people that don't do that, they don't. And then once they start drinking water, then they start to go, oh, I crave it, because their body's like, oh, I'm not storing what little I am getting, like a camel. So that it will turn around. And it's a hard habit. It's just like a habit. You have to consciously do it. There is an app, and I don't remember what it is, but there is an app on your phone that every time you drink a canister of water, you tell it, and it waters your plants, so you know if you're drinking enough water and if your garden's all green. My daughter was doing that when she was trying to get her habit back going.
That's cute. That's very cute.
Oh, yeah, it's a cute app. I don't know what it is, but it was a really cute app.
I like
until she killed her garden. She's like, Mom, I killed the garden. I'm like, well.
Oh, no, got to start over. I try to start at the beginning of the year. I don't really make resolutions per se, but, I start something very easy is first thing I do is I have a glass of water in the morning. If I put lemon in it, I do. If not, but just a glass just to kind of like jumpstart, your system. And I've been pretty good so far. So we're in May and we're pretty good.
Yeah.
So the second, the tip actually is something that Paula is going to provide. And so if you email me from my website, she's going to give you what?
Well, here's the thing is the craziest thing in the world is that most people don't. Everybody knows about that they have a gallbladder. They don't know what it does. And your gallbladder is your fat processing plant. And so if you eat red meat, fried foods, and processed foods, and you don't digest really well, you might want to clean out your gallbladder. So it's a really easy cleanse. It's only 2 days. It's a fast. You're going to drink raw apple juice, the real deal stuff, 8 ounces every 2 hours for 2 days. At the end of the second day, before you go to bed, 4 ounces of olive oil with 2 lemons juice. I have this written up, and Tiffany has it. So if you just go to her website, you can just ask her to email that off to you. And in 2 days, you'll have some crazy stuff come out. I think she'll have a picture to actually send that with you. It's just so you know what you're looking for.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah. So email me at my website. I think it's info@greenwithtiffany.com, but whatever is on there. If you sign up for the newsletter, that's what I can send it out from there. And with the picture, which should be very interesting. And then I'll have done it by then as well. So we'll be on the same page there. So thank you for sharing that with everybody. And one last tip. What do we have?
Well, one of the things that people are always going, why do I have that? And it's usually almost everybody has a little bit of candida in their water, and candida is yeast. You can get yeast. If you're a diabetic, you're definitely going to show lots of yeast. If you have athlete's foot or toe fungus, you're going to show a lot of it. But yeast is one of those things that it can wreak havoc if it's out of control. So when it's out of control, we've all seen that commercial where they're showing the Snickers commercial where the guy is coming in, and then Marcia eats the Snickers and Marcia becomes out and she's all happy. Nobody's telling you the reason why she becomes Marcia is because she's feeding the yeast, sugar, and fungus in her body. So if you're like, hey, I'm a sugar junkie, carbohydrateaholic, when I have to eat something every day around 2:00 in the afternoon. That's, a diabetic would have to count pasta, bread, rice, potatoes, beer, wine, soda, fruit. And then I feel Glenda the Good Witch person afterwards. You can clean your system out by doing a candida cleanse. Again, you just go on the internet, pull up candida cleanse. That's a great tool. You can always enhance it by utilizing some colloidal silver and some oil of oregano and some other and some probiotics. But basically it's you're cutting all your sugars and carbs, and you will be cranky for a couple days. So just warn those who you love or around you that you will be, and then for those you don't love, hell, just let them deal with it.
Well, thank you. Those are some great tips. Again, this is Paula Childers from Alimtox Wellness, and I thank you for the discount code. That'll be in the show notes. You can email me at my website, and you can find Paula at alimtox.com, as well as you can follow on Instagram and shoot me a direct message if you need any additional information. But we all need a detox, and this is a great way to do it. And I thank you, Paula, for all your information and for being in this natural health arena for as long as you have, and really being able to see it change. It must be very exciting for you to see how much more it's welcomed into the mainstream now.
It makes my life a lot easier. And here's the thing is I always tell everybody, it's a lot easier to be proactive about your health than reactive about your health. And I'm so lucky to have people like you in my life, because to get this word out and share and be happy to go out there and share. I go out and do shows and trade shows, but you have this amazing gift and tool that you use with your show and you to enlighten and educate people. And that is what people need, is to learn and make decisions for themselves, become their own health coach. So thank you for giving the opportunity to let somebody become their own health coach and take in charge of their own destiny.
Oh, thank you so much. Health is wealth, everyone. Take care, everyone. And until next time, I'm Green with Tiffany, and thanks for listening. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please rate, review, subscribe, and share on Apple Podcasts. It would mean the world to me. You can find me at greenwithtiffany.com and on Instagram. Till next time, choose to care.